Welcome to the College Basketball Net Profit Show, Wednesday, February 15th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack ready to break down the Wednesday college basketball slate. A busy Wednesday, a nice mixture, power conference and mid-major action. Let's get right into it. We'll start with Ole Miss and Florida. SEC, we've got Florida here currently around 10.5-point home favorites, 138 being the total in this game. The Ole Miss Rebels have certainly had a dismal season, 10-15. They're just 2-8 in their last 10. Florida's not playing great themselves either right now. They enter this game off 3 straight losses. Can understand losing at Kentucky and Alabama on the road, but losing at home to Vanderbilt as 8.5-point favorites, that's not what you want to see. 88-80 in their last game. I don't really have a strong feel for the side. Certainly, it does feel like Florida in a bounce-back spot. They're playing one of the worst teams in the conference, but I ain't ready to lay 10.5. I look at this Ole Miss team, and I see a team that's kind of quit on the defensive end. I see a Florida team that's been ripped on the defensive end their last 2 games. Maybe this total's a little too low. I'd certainly lean in that direction, 138 over the number. I think if I were to play something in this game, that would be it. What do you think, Conor?
If we were to talk about the total, after Florida being so good, to the under and just getting ripped apart like you mentioned, doesn't make me really want to take this under. I mean, at all. I want to stay off the total. It seems like the ultimate get right. We saw it last night with Auburn. Just have a huge first half. I mean, they were up like 30 over Missouri, so it kind of feels like that. But I would not lay it here with Florida. I still don't think they're a great shooting team at times. Of course, they are at home. If I had to free bet, I'd take these points with Ole Miss, but I'm not going to be involved.
All right, Florida State and Clemson. Now, next up, Clemson 10-point home favorites, 146 the total here in this game. It was a very, very good battle between these two teams the last time they met back on January 28th, and it was a 1-point win for Clemson, squeaking it out at Florida State, 82 to 81. Clemson back home. We know how well they've played at home, but they have hit definitely a rough patch here. 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread in their last 3 games. Florida State, they're struggling. They got blown out by NC State on the road. They got blown out at home by Miami. But pretty much everything other than that's been competitive. A 1-point loss to Clemson, 9-point loss to Syracuse at home, 8-point loss to Pitt at home. I'd take the points here, honestly. Florida State plus 10 in this game. Revenge angle. Clemson starting to fail against the number a little bit. Now they're, being priced like it. You're not getting any bargains with them at home. I'd look toward maybe looking at the dog here in this game. As far as the total goes, you saw 163 points in the last meeting, 6 straight overs between Clemson and Florida State. So be over or nothing for me with the total as well. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, with the total, this is one where Florida State could just have a horrible game like we've seen on the road, and that could keep this even not covering, but the total going over. That's the only thing I worry about because their defense is great. It seems like Clemson should get 80 tonight, just the way Florida, how bad they are. They give up over 75 bad numbers here. So even look at Clemson's team total. But if Florida State can score, these teams, close games, or Florida State's beat them over the last few years. I'm not going to I'd lean over. If I had to, give me the over.
All right, we continue along. Next up here, we've got Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech in this next matchup. It's a big number here for Virginia Tech, 7.5 on the road, 140. Holy shit, 141.5 the total in this game. Virginia Tech, they've had a really crazy all around the place type of season. I mean, no consistency, very erratic at times. But you look at coming into this game, in theory, they should be able to take care of business against this pretty bad Georgia Tech team. But Georgia Tech's covered 3 in a row, so they haven't been laying down. They've been competitive. Virginia Tech, it's been kind of win 2, lose 1, win 1, lose 1 type of thing. One thing that's been consistent about Virginia Tech is since Hunter Couture's return, the offense has certainly gotten better, and they've been trending over the total as a result. Do we get that out of Georgia Tech? I don't know. Georgia Tech's a dead nuts total team the other way, the under. So what's going to win out here in this game? That ends up being the question. Virginia Tech won 62-58 this year at Georgia Tech. Or actually it was last year. These two teams played. This is their first meeting this year. Virginia Tech beat them pretty handily at home, but at Georgia Tech, it was Georgia Tech losing by 4. I guess I'd lean slightly to Georgia Tech, but not enough to bet it. It's going to be a pass for me. Conor, what do you think?
This is tough for Virginia Tech, who needs a win. This team is just, even though they've been in games, you mentioned when Couture was out, they're losing. And that ain't going to help them. They're on the outs for the tournament. Um, I like how Georgia Tech's been playing, like you talked about. There's no way right now with Virginia Tech I could lay almost doubles, 8 or 9 points. Give me the dog here or nothing. The total, you mentioned the weight game. They're a little bit slow. It's right at this number. I think this could get over or just stay under. So I won't touch that. But I think the points at home could be valuable here for a Tech team that's playing a little bit better.
All right, we continue along here. Next up, Virginia and Louisville. Virginia 16-point home favorites, 127.5 being the total in this game. Virginia 69-62 win in overtime against Duke. The Virginia defense has really come back strong here. Other than the Virginia Tech game, they've held their other opponents to 62 points or less. So it's been a stingy defense. That's probably bad news for Louisville. Louisville, when they play someone that plays defense, it can be pretty rough for them to score the basketball. You'll probably see that here. It's a lot of points to lay with Virginia. Louisville's covered 3 of the last 4, so they have been mildly competitive here in some of these recent games. I just don't know, though. The games where they've covered numbers, they've played teams with leaky defense. They could cover here, but I don't think they're going to score very easily. So I'd be a little more cautious about taking Louisville and all these points. At the same time, I'm not laying quite this many with Virginia on the road. I'd maybe look under in this game, if anything. I know Virginia's had games where they barely got over low totals, but remember, the Duke game only went over the total because it went to overtime. That game was going to stay under. So I guess I'd lean under, but another pass for me. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, this is a pass for me. You mentioned it, a team like Miami, and I think Miami was just, flat there on that game. 20-point favorites in that one. At Pitt, they got blown out again. Florida State team we just talked about, that's not very good. An all right game. I just can't take Louis as much as I want these points. And you're right, this total, I look to the under here. It's just we're not getting a bargain. And what Virginia, are we going to keep getting that slow pace? Because Louisville's defense is bad, but can Virginia, who was scoring 75 regularly, in January, keep rolling that and do that here? Maybe. If I had it, I'd give me the points here if I had to bet it.
All right, we continue along. Next up, it is Alabama and Tennessee. Definitely one of the marquee games tonight. The Volunteers, 3-point home favorites, 145.5 the total. Classic situation, which we did see with Auburn and Missouri, where we talked about it. It's the team that's struggling, team that's really having a tough time, but it's a situational spot advantage for them. Or do you take the team that's in the better form? What do you do here? And obviously the team that was struggling got the win, Auburn, as they dismantled Missouri. I don't know if I feel as confident here, though, with Tennessee, because Alabama's a hell of a team right now, the way they're playing. They've been excellent. They went on the road. They beat Auburn in their last game. Tennessee just all of a sudden cannot find ways to win games. And even the games they have won, like the Auburn game, was a 3-point game. It doesn't feel like Tennessee is going to win this game very easily. So, and if they bet this thing up, I haven't bet Bama yet, but I'm leaning to Alabama. But if they bet this thing up even further, and it's starting to look like it might hit 3.5, maybe even 4 on Tennessee before the opening tip, then I'm definitely going to come in on Alabama, because I don't know if Tennessee's going to win this game at all, let alone by any sort of margin. And Alabama, to me, is just rolling at both ends of the floor. And Tennessee, we've seen them now repeatedly where, one game their defense stinks. The one game their offense can't make a key shot. I mean, they've just been all over the map. They haven't been able to bring it together, a complete floor game in the last 3. So I like Alabama here. It's just a matter of waiting to pull the trigger, see if I can get even a better number than I am able to now. Because, by the way, if you're an under better, 7 straight head-to-head meetings, these two teams have gone under. And
numbers going the other way.
And the numbers going the other way, yet none of these games have gotten to more than 141 points. So be careful with this total. What do you think here, Connor?
Yep, I'm going to be off. I had to. Tennessee slows it down. We know Alabama can get up and down, but I think they have a solid defense. And Tennessee, not a great shooting team. And I don't want Rick Barnes right now. I mean, this could be Tennessee could win this game. We saw Oklahoma dismantle Alabama. What was that, a couple weekends ago? But to me, you're getting 3 points. I don't know if it could touch 3.5. I think that's it. Everyone jumps on Bama even more. Miller inside and out. Sears has been very good. I think this is Bama or nothing. The biggest thing is Tennessee at home at the spot, and then now Bama, the number one in the country. When a team like that goes to another building like this, target right on the back. So it's not my favorite best bet, but it's Bama or nothing from here.
All right, we got a good one in the Big East. Next up, Xavier and Marquette. Marquette 6-point home favorites, 160.5 the total. I lean Marquette a little bit. It's just I want it a little bit better than 6, but I don't know if I trust Xavier. Xavier had that bad loss at Butler. It's a revenge spot for Marquette. They lost 80-76 at Cintas back on January 15th. We know Marquette has played pretty good basketball at home all year, and there's some injuries for Xavier, and it's hurting them big time. We know Fremantle's out until at least early March. They're hoping to have him back for the NCAA tournament, but that's not guaranteed yet. And then the big one is the big guy in the middle, Soli Baum here for the Xavier Musketeers. It looks like he's banged up as well, though it does look like he is slated to play through the ankle sprain, but is he going to have 100% mobility? That remains to be seen. That's another pass, but I lean a little to Marquette. I think it's their spot. They lost to Xavier earlier this season. I think Xavier's piss poor defensively. That's the problem with them. They can't get stops when they need one. I'd lean to the Golden Eagles here. What do you think here, C-Mac?
Yeah, some injuries both sides. You mentioned Baum with Xavier. I gotta think there's points here. Obviously, this total's high. I'm not gonna touch it. And this to me seems like Marquette at home. It's just stretching out a little bit. I think they win. It's just, do you want to take them to cover? I think this one, Xavier shoots it well, which they can. They could maybe get inside this number, but just to win, it's Marquette or nothing.
All right, next up here it is Kentucky and Mississippi State in the SEC. Mississippi State home favorites here, right around 3 in this one, and 128.5 the total in this game. Mississippi State, they've been, like I say, I like the coaching hire here with this program. He did a nice job at the previous stop. He's done a nice job here at Mississippi State. They're playing good ball, 5 straight wins, 5 straight covers entering this game. Really, remember early in January, this team was struggling, couldn't get out of their own way, and then they get the much needed win against TCU in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, and it's almost like a switch flip for this team. And it's like, we're better than this. We can use this as a springboard, get our season back on track. Man, if they ever. Very impressive. 5-0 straight up, 5-0 against the spread. Now they take on this Kentucky team that was starting to look like they were getting their game back together. They had won 6 of 7. Their only loss was against Kansas. And since then, they lose at home as favorites to Arkansas. And then they lose as favorites on the road to Georgia in their last game, 75-68. So they can't make heads or tails of this Kentucky team. And Mississippi State, you go back and look, and the last 3 meetings since 2021, Kentucky had a 5-point win at Mississippi State, but it required overtime. Mississippi State won won in the SEC tournament, 74-73. Last year they played once. It was at Rupp Arena, but Kentucky once again needed overtime to beat Mississippi State. So I'm not ready to trust Kentucky here. I'd look toward the home favorite. I'll probably bet it on the money line. It's a little juicy at -150, but I'd still prefer that rather than -3. What do you think here, Conor?
That's the only little bit of issue. Mississippi State playing good basketball is laying that 3 with a team. I mean, this team shoots 28% from 3. It's just rough. But Kentucky, bad defense here. Good offense. Haven't been very good on defense. We know Mississippi State clash of styles here, up and down. Kentucky not very good defensively, good offensively. And the flip, Mississippi State not that great offensively, but really good defensively. I want them here at home. It's just laying the 3 with a team that doesn't shoot it well. And this, Savannah, 62% free throw shooting. Come on now, 357. That's the only thing. So maybe look just to take them money line, but Kentucky reeling.
Severe Wheeler, the point guard out. CJ Frederick. I'm so sick of CJ Frederick being on this damn injury report for Kentucky. This guy, since he left Iowa, he should have actually retired from college basketball after leaving. He shouldn't have just gone to Kentucky. It's been a waste. You've been off the floor with injuries more than you played since you've gone to Kentucky. So that's a problem too. Kentucky banged up a little bit.
They are. It's not working out. So Bulldogs at home.
Yeah, I agree. Kentucky looks a little toxic environment right now going on in Lexington for Calipari and the Wildcats. All right, Drake and Northern Iowa. Drake 6-point road favorites, 139. This is one of the better mid-major games of the night. Two solid teams in the Missouri Valley. Northern Iowa has struggled here the last five, no question about that. Drake is rolling. They've won 7 straight going into this game. It's a good rivalry. This is one of those rivalries where doesn't it look so easy to take Drake? Drake is in great form. Northern Iowa has lost 5 straight, and all 5 of those games have been by 7 points or more. So it tells you, shouldn't we lay the points here with Drake? But this has been one of those weird rivalries where it's always tight. It's always
Definitely.
close. Even earlier this year, they played 2 weeks ago, and it was 88-81 in overtime for Drake. Northern Iowa covered, though, at Drake. Now it's a home game for Northern Iowa. Last year, 74-69 Northern Iowa in overtime, and then 82-74 Drake in overtime. I mean, they've gone to overtime in 3 straight games. So this is one of those, yeah, it's a team in bad form, Northern Iowa, but now with the number climbing, I'm grabbing just a tiny pinch of it, the Panthers here at +6. I just think, rivalry setting, nothing but close games. 3 straight have gone to overtime. Drake's laying a little too much now in this spot. And Northern Iowa always does play Drake tough. So, again, you have to stomach taking a team that's struggling right now, but I still think I like NIU here, Northern Iowa plus the points. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, Drake playing really well. This move 2 points and maybe even more, but this rivalry is very tough. I looked at the total though. I'd need a little more. Northern Iowa, one spot is at home where they play better, and these teams, like you mentioned, get together. They're just close. Both these teams, especially late, they're over teams. Northern Iowa, especially at home, not on the road, they shoot it better. I think this total is too light. I like the over in this game.
All right, good stuff indeed. Next up, Indiana Northwestern. Indiana 2.5 point road favorites, 134.5 the total in this game. Northwestern with the upset at Indiana, 84-83 back on January 8th. Revenge spot. We'll see if there is some questions about the availability of Race Thompson for Indiana. Knee injury questionable, so keep an eye on that. But I'm trying to make a case to bet the Hoosiers here, revenge spot. I still think they're the better team than Northwestern. I know Northwestern's won 3 in a row, but come on, 2 of those were Wisconsin and Ohio State. I will say, though, that was shocking against Purdue, 64-58. But if anything, a team like Northwestern could be prone to a little bit of a letdown spot here off a win like that. So I do like Indiana money line here. Lean under the total as well. Yeah, the under does make sense to me here in this game. Northwestern's trending that way. So is Indiana. Feels like they could be a lower scoring affair. What do you think, Connor? Indiana, Northwestern?
Yeah, when I saw this total, I looked to the under. Um, do you have word Thompson's going to go or not? I
Questionable.
haven't really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. I just don't know if you've heard anything there. Northwestern, you mentioned the Purdue win, and they beat Indiana earlier, right? At Indiana. This is a little payback. I just don't want to lay even the short number with Indiana. I think in the end they might get the win, but I don't want them here.
All right, we continue along here. Next up, it is TCU and Iowa State, Big 12 battle here. Iowa State 5.5 point home favorites, 134.5 the total. Yeah, this does feel like Iowa State or nothing. TCU is going to be without their great guard, Mike Miles Jr., and the big guy, Eddie Lampkin. Both of them ruled out for this game tonight against Iowa State. You got Iowa State off back-to-back losses, including a very rare, and I mean very rare, home loss at Hilton Coliseum. That was only their first home loss of the season against Oklahoma State on Saturday in their last game. So great bounce-back spot. TCU's just seems like things are not quite right without Miles and Lampkin. 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread. I think when they get those guys back, they're still a very dangerous basketball team,
Yeah.
TCU. The only thing that's concerning is TCU is in revenge. They lost to Iowa State 69-67 at home in Fort Worth back on January 7th. But Iowa State has covered 2 straight. They've done well against TCU. I haven't seen enough quality play here the last few games out of this TCU team without, pretty much their 2 best players. You might as well call them that because that's what they are. So Iowa State, 2 off back-to-back losses at home where they've just kicked ass so many times this year. You can understand why they've taken money. I would lean home favorite as well. What do you think, Con?
Yeah, I wrote this just home spot, kind of a smash. Just they're better this year, I think, offensively, and they've had big wins. here at home. So I would lay it with Iowa State. You mentioned those two guys out. TCU can't shoot the three, 28%, 358. And yeah, I just want them here at home. And their defense, I think, is the key here. I'd look a little bit under in this game. I haven't played it. But when they play great, they hold teams down. Shout out to my guy, Vincent Ramirez, 999. Hell yeah, my guy. Shout out to him for the dono. All right, go ahead, rip it. Got a dono, you gotta get right to it, man.
Yep, shout out.
No messing
Exactly.
around.
No, Vincent
Hell
Ramirez, we appreciate it. Had a good day. Thanks for all the hard work there. That's what we're here for. We've had a good season. I've had a really good season. I'm up over 20 units in college basketball this year. Complete opposite of last year. It's a good thing I wasn't doing shows for college basketball on this channel last year because I stunk
You're
up
all right. Hey, we go through
last year. Yeah.
When you do this regularly,
Yeah.
you know how it is,
Yeah.
man, with all the sports. Shit.
But I'm here this year doing the shows, and we've had a night. You know what it is too? I'm preparing harder for college basketball on a daily basis. I think this year because I'm doing these shows every day.
All these games.
Yep.
That's a grind.
Yep. And it's presented better results though. That's for sure. So appreciate you, Vince, and the dono. All right, Davidson, St. Louis in the A10. Next up, we've got the St. Louis Billikens, 6-point home favorites, 144 the total in this one. St. Louis beat Davidson 74-70 at Davidson just a couple of weeks ago. We'll see if Davidson is able to get some redemption here in this one. Davidson, their last few games, they've been in some tough ones. You look at their last several games, 2-point loss at George Mason, 7-point loss at Dayton. They beat LaSalle, 4-point loss, as we mentioned, to St. Louis at home, 2-point loss to VCU at home. They beat UMass after that, 93-78, 2-point loss to Fordham in their last game. They're just the kings of playing close games. I'm tempted by the points here with the Wildcats, with Davidson here getting +6, +6.5. And you look at St. Louis, on the other hand, that since they beat Davidson a couple weeks ago at Davidson, they lose at Fordham as favorites. They lose at home to VCU as favorites. They fail to cover and barely beat a pretty bad Rhode Island team at home. And they get drilled by Dayton, 70-56 last Friday night. And they're a banged up bunch. There's a couple key players out. They've been without Thatch for a while. You look at Kellen Thames has missed time. And they just have not, in the last few games, St. Louis, been that same offensive team in particular. They've struggled to shoot properly. When you're laying points, you need to make baskets. I think Davidson might be the look here, honestly. 6, 6.5. I'd like the road dog here if I'm betting this game. What do you think here, Colin?
It is the road dog. There's no way I'm taking St. Louis. And I don't love this Davidson team, but both these teams I don't want to lay a number with. St. Louis almost seems late. They got to play a really, really great game, perfect game. And they do that sometimes at home. That's when they've looked their best. Davidson team, team gets me all the time. But they've definitely been in games. Like you mentioned, even though 3 of the 4 have been losses, they've been able to score. So I looked a little bit. I'd lean over. And, yeah, I think you take the 6.5 or just stay away. No way I'm laying it with St. Louis.
And you're always in the game when you're a good free throw shooting team, and Davidson is. That's
Correct.
The one thing they're still very good at, making free throws. So, like I say, and again, every Davidson game has been close. Whether they win, whether they lose, they're in the game. That's essentially what we've seen from them the last several. So I think +6.5 is worth it to put that in your pocket here. All right, next up, we've got Boise State, Colorado State. We move out to the Mountain West. Boise State, 3-point road favorites, 138.5 being the total in this game. Certainly, this is a Colorado State home court that, oftentimes can be pretty difficult. Speaking of difficult, the season has been kind of difficult here for Colorado State. They've been riddled with injuries. They've had a real tough time. They had lost 5 in a row, but they snapped the losing streak with a big blowout win at Air Force in their last game. But, yeah, they've definitely suffered from some injuries. They've got Jalen Lake out with a concussion. Taviante Jackson right now dealing with an illness, Josiah Strong as well. So they've got definitely some concerns about who's going to be on the basketball court tonight for this game against Boise State. Let me see what the latest here is on Strong. The illness, I think he's still out because of that as well. So they are a little bit shorthanded. They are a little bit depleted. Boise State off a home win against Wyoming. We'll see if they can carry it on the road. They've not been overly as reliable on the road, I should say. The last few road games, they had the loss to New Mexico. They didn't cover with a road win at Air Force. They lost to San Diego State. They got blown out in that game. But I just don't think Colorado State is healthy enough or in good enough form to trust them. So Not a game I'm going to get involved with, but I understand why Boise's a road favorite here. What do you think, Connor?
This is Dutch backwood. Nothing here. I mean, just you have to almost look to take Boise because this is a spot though where you want Colorado State. The injuries are just too much. You mentioned Lake being out. Stevens has to do so much, but when they're at home, they've played some close ones. You know, even of late, they've hung around and at least fought hard. I just don't think they have the bodies. So to me, I just stay off this game. I mean, if you had to, look Boise.
All right, Oregon and Washington. Don't have many Pac-12 games on Wednesday nights usually, but we do have one here. Oregon 5.5 point road favorites, 140.5 the total in this game. Washington's lost 4 in a row coming into this game, but very competitive in every game. I mean, 9 point loss at UCLA, 6 point loss at USC, 5 point loss at Washington State. All of those games were on the road as well. So competitive in defeat. We'll see if they can hang tough with Oregon here. We've got Oregon off the loss against UCLA, 70-63 on their home court, looking to bounce back from that. I think one of the key matchup advantage situations here going into this matchup here is that you look at the Oregon Ducks. They're okay. They're not a great, I should say, 3-point shooting team. Washington can shut you down from the three. And again, when you're playing the zone teams like Washington, you got to make threes. And the Oregon Ducks, and I see that 31.4%, 312 ranking from 3-point range. That's not good when you're playing zone because they cut off the middle, they cut off the mid range, and they're going to make you make perimeter shots. And Oregon's just not very good at doing that. So I kind of want to take the home underdog here a little bit, the Huskies here. They've been covering numbers lately. Even in the losses, they've been competitive. I think if I were to play this one, Connor, I'd look at Washington here plus 5.5. What do you think here?
Yeah, ugly dog. I think it's a play here at home. I mean, I really hope this. Wish it was 7.5, but I still think 5.5. They need to get back home. You know, they've been on the road the last three. For the most part, I haven't taken a ton of totals, but when I have, I gotta be like 5-1. I'd lean over the shooting, but usually the erratic play, washing up and down. I'd lean over a little bit. I'm gonna look at it a little bit more, but I'd lean that way and lean Washington.
All right, next up, we've got San Diego State and Fresno State. San Diego State, 7.5 point road favorites, 129 being the total in this game. I like San Diego State here. I really do, laying 7.5. And I'm not a big road favorites guy by any stretch of the imagination, but I like the road favorite in this spot. You look at this Fresno team here and what they've done at home here. They actually lost at home to Air Force, which was a bad loss last month. The last time they played a good team at home in this conference, Utah State, they lost by 17. And if you look at what San Diego State's been doing on the road, they won at Utah State. They beat down Air Force. They beat Colorado State. Their only setback was at Nevada. But what they've done here in Fresno over the years, it's been one beatdown over another over the Fresno State Bulldogs on this court. 2020, it was a 9-point win. 2021, it was a 14-point win. They actually played back-to-back in Fresno 2021. It was that COVID year, and teams played each other twice in a row in the same venue. They didn't want to travel as much. 67-53, 75-57 beatdowns for San Diego State over Fresno State. Last year at Fresno, it was 61-44 for San Diego State at Fresno here. So it's just been beat down city on the road. San Diego State's dummied Fresno in their own home court. So I definitely think looking at San Diego State here is the way to go in this one. What do you think here, Connor? San Diego State, Fresno State.
Yeah, shout out to Donahue. Yeah, the Providence was
yes, it was,
but they got it done.
It's a great game.
And to Derek Miller, we're just going through the games, my guy. It's tough for me when people always say, Connor, you're saying lean too much. Well, we're going over the games. We just want to give you the analysis, especially on these big ones.
Yep.
But Benno bets a little bit more than me. But
if we only talked about the games we actually had strong opinions and big bets on, then people will complain, well, what about all these other games you didn't talk about? So There you go.
Come on.
It is, right?
Hey, now.
Can't please everybody. Yeah.
Fresno's always been so good at home. But you mentioned San Diego State's just owned them. They got 62 points a game. I've seen this team struggle to score. I mean, they can't get to 70. I can't back them at all. To me, I think if you had San Diego State or just stay away.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, To me, yeah, I know what you're getting at, Derek. You're right. But what I'm trying to do is, be more in the, if it's a hard pass for me, I'm going to mention it's a hard pass. And if I'm leaning one way, I'll just say lean, and I'll actually say, yeah, I bet this already. So it's just specifying exactly what you're doing with each game. But we appreciate it, good, bad, or otherwise. The comments from anybody, we appreciate you tuning in. You're watching. That's all we ask for.
Hit the
And hit the
like,
like
hit the
button.
thumbs
That
up.
too. Yeah, hit the
That's all
like
we
button.
ask.
We appreciate it very much. No doubt about that. All right. You know what? It's supposed to be more tough. People are saying the last few days it's been a little tougher. Yeah, it's supposed to get more difficult here at this time of year. We're at the dog days of the conference season now. And, teams are, going through battling injuries, and there's attrition, and, teams are playing for their tournament lives and rising up and surprising you with some weird results. There's always some crazy results at this time of year. No doubt. But I will say this, conference tournaments and March Madness, NCAA tournament for me the last few years has been awesome. We've done a hell of a job in the tournaments the last couple of years. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Connor Mack, we're looking forward to games that we have not talked about on the show that you like. What other games do you like tonight?
Real quick, the reason why that is because we do all these shows, you get more and more data, and we've seen all these teams all year long. I think it always helps me out. That's why some years I start out so hot in November, and other years like this year it was a little bit, slow. And that's just how it goes. But I always think it's better because we've been doing it all year. All right, let's rip through a few here. George Washington, I was looking at their over 147 in that game. To the extra board, Winthrop, Gardner Webb under 135. I think that total is too much there. Irvine, Santa Barbara under in that game. Murray State, I don't know what happens to this team, but man, they can't stop anything. They're getting like 90 points. Illinois State can score. They're up tempo, so I'd only look at that over 140. St. Bonaventure, small leaner. I haven't bet this one +7, even the under 133. You know what? I looked at this team, Babano. I can't get there at home with East Carolina. They've been too erratic, dealing with injuries and stuff like that. So I had to stay off, even though I looked at them +9.5. I think that's about it. Cal Baptist, right. I looked at them. Yeah, that was that was it.
That was it. All right, good stuff there, indeed. All right, in this game here, we've got, or I should say, with this card, I'm with you on that total with Murray State. I like that over in that game. I'm on ETSU Western Carolina over. I'm on St. Joe's Duquesne over, and Duquesne, home favorite, and the over in that game. George Washington at home, I kind of like them against George Mason. Furman Citadel over. Let me see what else we've got here. I like Richmond to beat LaSalle. LaSalle is kind of overachieving right now. I think Richmond brings them back down to earth. I think Richmond can go on the road, win that game. So I like Richmond, pick them -1 money line, whatever you want to take there. But I like the Spiders in that game. Chattanooga, VMI. VMI, might be a little undervalued. They had a rough start. They've been a little more competitive. I don't trust Chattanooga as road favorites. I lean VMI.
Actually, was it enough though?
Yeah,
7.5. I was hoping for 10, but I did look at that as well.
Yeah, I VMI, a small bet for me there, VMI plus the points there. Let me see what else we've got. IUPUI has just been so bad defensively. That game could go over with Oakland. I mean, they haven't stopped anybody. So over 143.5, I think, is worth a look there. Let me see what else we've got here on the board. Let me see here down the list. Greensboro Sanford total might be light there. Tarleton State, I like them plus the points in that game. I like the Belmont team total over. I want to take Evansville out of the equation. I don't know if Evansville's capable of scoring, but I'm honestly looking at Belmont team total over against Evansville in that one. I like the over with Indiana State, Illinois, Chicago. I keep going to the over with that Indiana State team, and it keeps on rewarding me. South Florida, Tulsa, another game where I think we see points. I like the over there. Kind of like Tulsa a little bit as a home dog. Tulsa's starting to, play a little bit better, slowly. And it's more that I don't trust South Florida laying points on the road in that game. What else have we got? They're laying points with A&M. I'm kind of tempted by the other side now, Arkansas at +4, but haven't bet it yet. Let me see what else we've got here on the main board. That's about it, pretty much. Seattle Cal Baptist over, but that total's moved up to 138 in that game. Beach and Riverside should be high scoring. I agree with the move on the total there in that game. Irvine +3. I kind of like that against Santa Barbara as well. And then on the added board, Boston Holy Cross over. We've got UMBC laying 7 against Albany. I like that a little bit. UMass Lowell Bryant over the total, 154. I like Bryant at home as well. Longwood Upstate, I like the over there. Longwood and USC Upstate over 135.5. And anything else on the added board? Kind of like Stetson at home against Florida Gulf Coast. Don't trust Florida Gulf Coast there. Army Colgate. I lean over. I do like the over there. Actually, that isn't a lean. That's a bet, and that's it. That's everything.
Did you say you liked Upstate?
Upstate over with Longwood. Just the total, not the side.
Yeah, I couldn't get there the side. I think they could keep that game close. Yeah, I'm on the flip side, and we'll just get to it. But Bano, it's one of my better looks. I know it's 4 now, but I think Texas A&M, I'd lay it.
With
Four
them at
stretching
home,
it. I
yeah.
got a 3.5. I think them at home, they've been too good. So I like that.
There we go. So definitely, there you go, Brian Watson, like an A&M. Connor's like an A&M. There we go. Under in the UC Davis under. UC Davis, by the way, is playing against. Let me see here tonight. Northridge. Oh, I like Northridge in that game. +11. Northridge has been sneaky lately. Starting to
They've been
turn the
better.
corner a little bit. Point
Scoring
spread
a little
wise.
bit.
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
Northridge there. I forgot that. Northridge +11.5 against Davis. I lean under in that game, but I just bet the side. Bradley -10. Look, certainly I'm not rushing to make a case for Missouri State, man. They've had a disappointing season. They've had some injuries too, but I don't know if I want to lay that many with Bradley. And I just mentioned it, Jake Bryant and the over for me against UMass Lowell. So I like both of those there. Stetson over. I have no opinion on that total at all. I think it could be right there. High Point over, says Daddy Yankee. High Point against Presbyterian, 141. Yeah, I could see it. I could see it with them. That's a reasonable total.
Bad defense.
Bad defense. Yeah, 141. I actually don't mind that at all. Yeah, we mentioned Drake, Northern Iowa, Andrew, earlier. So rewind and you'll see what we thought about that game. Matty Ice saying Upstate +4.5. Yeah, I'll always say this about Upstate, and I know Conor will agree. When they're a dog, they've been pretty good long term as a dog. So yeah,
it's them for me or nothing. Like I've been sharing at it all day long.
Yeah, I'm with you there. It would be the underdog against Longwood there, and I like the total more, but Upstate +4.5 definitely might be worth a look. And Army against Colgate, I think Army could hang inside that number, but I like that Colgate team. Man, they run such good offense. Matt Langiel is a great coach there, and they're pretty good. They can be pretty dominant at home, but it does feel like a few too many points maybe. And I like Army there. I lean Army a little bit. I won't be betting it, but I will lean Army in that game. And I am on George Washington against George Mason, Daryl. I mentioned that earlier. So
I like them too. I'd lean the over. It's just at 147 was a little up there.
Too high. But I agree they're over or nothing with Mason, with the Battle of the Georges by George Mason and George Washington. Longwood over, yes, Daryl. Just mentioned that. Longwood and Upstate over. All right, there we go. Let's wrap this up. Best bets coming up right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101 and manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports, 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with promo code PubSports. All right, it is time for best bets here to wrap up this edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Conor Mack, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Yeah, I took the Drake, Northern Iowa, over 138. I think we get points there, and I'll throw the other one. Just I'm on Texas A&M -3.5. I think they get it done at home.
There you go. One total, one side. Drake Northern Iowa over and A&M over Arkansas for Conor Mack with best bets for this Wednesday college basketball slate. My best bet here, I'm going to go with two best bets. I'm going to go Indiana Hoosiers money line against Northwestern minus 140. I think payback for that loss at home to them. And I'm going to go Davidson plus 6.5 against St. Louis. So there you go. A couple of sides for best bets. Indiana money line at Northwestern. Davidson plus 6.5 against St. Louis. See if we can go for the 2-0 sweep with best bets here for this Wednesday college basketball net profit show. All right, that'll wrap up this edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. And we'll be back again tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the show. For Conor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Wednesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We will talk to you again tomorrow on Thursday for another edition of the College Basketball Net Profit Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Palooza 2 on the horizon. We're going to have live shows popping off in the Southbound 101. We're going to have a poker tournament, a par 3 golf tournament, UFC San Antonio on the Saturday night. A lot of excitement. Palooza 2, baby.